lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me today, I have a man that needs no introduction, Brian
No, I do.
Michael
I need
Bendis.
an introduction.
Okay, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Avengers, Superman. I mean, there's just so much that you've written. It's more, it'd be easier to name something you haven't written, I think, at the big two. A bunch of create your own stuff, Popeye. Just so much great comics over the course of your career, and it is so awesome to have you on. I know you probably don't remember, but we did a written interview long time ago for my site, but I'm super stoked to have you on to do a video one with you today, man.
Oh, great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'll just jump right into it. So last time we spoke, I think it was right when you started at DC. Maybe you'd been there for a few months, so a lot has happened obviously since then. So I just overall, what was your experience like at DC? I mean, I always knew you for Marvel, so I mean,
yeah, no, it was great for me. They treated me very well. They invited me with open arms. Sadly, they were in like the final throes of an era, which I was not aware of when I walked in the door, but now that we all know, I mean, none of those people are there anymore, so it's not like a secret or anything. But
right.
so I am deeply grateful. I was well taken care of and allowed to do that which I wanted to do, which was celebrate those characters and see what I could do at DC. I got to live a lot of I checked literally everything off my wish list that I built up over the course of my life, and including getting to work with all of my friends and bring them over with us. And so, yeah, it was great. Dan DiDio was a wonderful employer, and I'm sad that whole era ended, but I'm glad I got to be a little bit a part of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that we got you before the end of that era, so we got a little bit of DC from you. I mean, obviously, like I think your main focus right now is your creator-owned stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
so what kind of was that the kind of catalyst that moved you over to just focusing on creator-owned?
I obviously the whole Marvel chapters of my life is a smorgasbord of privilege and wonderful things finally happening after years of trying. Like the entirety of the 90s is me trying, and then the entirety of the aughts is it all paying off. And at the time, now it looks all charming, but at the time it was, oh man, who knows if I'll ever get a chance to write any of these. And then all of a sudden I was allowed to write all of them. And then when I was wrapping up my time at Marvel, which in itself was like, you just leave because you got to leave eventually. It's like Saturday Night Live. It's just like, you can stay if you're doing well. No one's going to push you out the door, but at the same time, you should leave before they push you out the door. And I had stayed longer than most, and been on books longer than most. And the whole time going, should I leave? And then I'm going, no one's asking you to leave. And like, but like Bagley left Spider-Man. Like, should I leave Spider-Man? I don't want to. Like, there's no, like, I'm having a blast. So it was always a mixed feeling to leave. But I was glad I did when I left, and I got to leave on my own terms, which is not always the case. So I was happy about that. The plan when I was leaving was to do what I'm doing right now. Set up a home for my creator-owned work, hopefully find some extra special places to do that which I want to do. But I was aware that Dan DiDio was interested in talking to me over the years. I had been, like 5 years before, Jim Lee called me out of the blue and said, "You, me, Legion." And I'm like, "Oh, I do want to do that." Like, but I couldn't, right? But I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome." So they had planted seeds over the years to have me come. But this, what I'm doing now, was the plan. But DC offered me something I couldn't turn down. Obviously it was too attractive to try, with the idea of that, I can do both, and then I'll do this. So it worked out okay. But what I'm doing right now was the original after Marvel plan, which is to go do creator own, take all the maybe goodwill I built with Miles and other things, and try to try new things. So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I think your name holds a lot of clout. I think you've done so much great stuff over the years. I mean, I could just point to different times in my life, like from a teenager to like now, like just so many pivotal moments, and like I can remember where I was when I read your Daredevil, where I was when I read your Avengers, stuff like that. And it is cool to see you, as much as I love your work for hire stuff, it is cool to see you kind of go back to your roots, which is the creator owned stuff.
I again, I'm a very blessed and privileged because I get to do both if I want. But at this moment in time in my mind and in my heart, and really what I see out there in the world, I think it's time to focus on new stuff, like just try new things as much as I can. So and you know, I've had a couple of instances in my life where I got to like look back and go, all right, what would I have done differently? What would I do? And it's always about more new stuff is always the headline. So I'm thrilled that that's like what I'm doing right now. Sorry about that. That was my alarm to call you. Sorry.
Do you ever sit back and think how crazy it is, the fact that all of your Jinxworld stuff has been at Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse, the main 4 publishers in comics?
Yes.
It's insane.
Yes. And as because some of them like Jinx and Goldfish were created in the most desperate throes of independent comic book making, which is me alone in a room, not knowing if what I'm doing is making any sense to anybody. And then lo and behold, it's a Marvel comic. Like, and Marvel seems like like Mordor, so like a million miles away. Like I couldn't even find a path to it. So yeah, so there's a laundry list of, can you believe that stuff in my life? And that is easily in the top 5. That just the movies, like again, when I walked in, there were no movies. There was Blade. It was like, so watching them go from that all the way to Iron Man, all the way to Disney, all the way to this. It was what a journey, and what a seat I had to watch it. Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, yeah, I think just from like me growing up, I was talking to somebody recently, like I didn't have friends that read comics. You know, like when I was a kid, there was nobody. I was by myself. It wasn't until I had a little brother who I'm 11 and a half years older, and he started like looking at what I was doing to where I had like a little road dog, but kind of like I started getting older. So I'm like, you need to step off a little bit. Like I need to go with my friends. But like that was technically my first like comic book like pal, you know, was my little brother showing it to him and stuff. And yeah, it's just a
very similar memories. In fact, I'm doing a autobiographical graphic novel right now through a Substack about a lot of my earliest comic book memories. It's really about the Spider-Man musical, but it's really about like comic book memories. And I have a very vivid memory of my best friend who was not into comics reading Frank Miller's Ronin, so I would have someone to talk to about, because I was vibrating with excitement over this, you know, genuine event. And it was just like when we were at summer camp together, he goes, oh, just give it to me. And he sat there on a rainy like Saturday and read it, so I could just like vomit on him, word vomit all my feelings.
That's awesome. That's such a
so
great
yeah,
story.
it was cool. Like, but then I was just like one friend away from like, I ended up getting a job at a comic book store, and all of a sudden I had comic book friends, and I've still, some of those people are still my friends. And I was behind the counter talking shit about everything that I actually do for a living now. And yeah, so and then quickly after that, like I broke into comics and then met David Mack and Mike Oeming, and like right away, like I met my people in the beginning of my people, like instantly. Yeah.
And look, you've collaborated on multiple projects, you know, and I mean, both of them are amazing artists also, you know, amazing.
Gatos, Alex Maleev, Taki Soma, there's quite a few people, but the longevity of these collaborations are the thing I'm tip-top most proud of.
Yeah, I think that that's something that I don't think people really give enough credit to in terms of collaborations between writer and artist, and having like a consistent collaboration, you know, like it's rare, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
You don't see runs like yours anymore. Like people maybe on a book a year, if we're lucky, and not with the same artist. It's, you know, so to see you continuing to work with these creators just speaks to like the relationship you've built with them, you know.
I appreciate that. I spend a lot of time celebrating the collaboration and what it means, and what the friendship means, and what the relationship means. I am enamored by other people's long collaborations, like the Spielbergs, John Williams of the world. Like I look at it with envy, and then when I look back and see that I've just entered year 30 with me and David Mack, I'm like, oh, I got one of those. Like you know, it's, I'm very, very proud of them. And because you do, as you get older, it becomes about topping yourself and coming up with new, because we're all growing in different areas, and coming back together with our new tools to see what else we can do is very exciting.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you also have like new collaborations too. So like one of your latest series, which is issue 3 is the most recent one, but the ones. Can you tell me a little bit about the creation of that story and the kind of
I'm thrilled to. So around the long version is for my 50th birthday, I did a present to myself. Like I literally said, all right, there's a big pile of things that went well. Like even you with your self-loathing cannot deny there's a nice pile of wins here. Let's make a list of what haven't you done. And as I said before, the big one was not enough new stuff. So I, as a present to myself, said I'm going to spend the next year developing, writing down, and laser focusing on new ideas. And sometimes that would be like combining ideas, like all the things, like everything I can think of. And one of the ideas that I've been playing with literally for 20 years was how funny I think it is, the chosen one trope in Hollywood. Not the idea in religion or mythology, but what Hollywood does with it is hilarious. And like even the ones that are great, like the Matrix, it's still funny to me. Like, even the first Matrix, they're like, you're the one, really? Because it seems like Trinity is the one. And anyway, so all of it. And then when they got to the fourth Matrix and they said, we're both the one, I go, okay, I'm done. This is hilarious. I can't get over. So I've been playing with this idea for years and years and years. And I really was like, and I'm such a comedy nerd, like a big, deep comedy nerd, equal to my comic book nerdness, and even maybe even more so. So to do a straight comedy, like not hiding behind it's a sci-fi, but it's funny. Like, no, it's a comedy. You're not hiding from the jokes, and to really like enjoy the Ghostbusters of it all. Like, do a really good adventure, but it's a comedy. So I was toying with it, and what's really lovely about this one was I was like, who would I do this with? And sometimes I'm developing it with a person. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I'll draw it myself. Like I don't know who this is for yet, and I know who it's not for. Like I know Alex Maleev won't care about this, but like I know what he likes, right? And then on Twitter, and may I share with you a very rare modern good Twitter story. I know they're very, very frequent,
very rare,
but a good reader, a fan, someone who's very involved with us, right on a lazy Sunday said, "Hey Brian, look at Jacob Edgar's work. I think you two would be fantastic together. Just as a fan, I would like to see you two make something together." And I don't know Jacob, and I wasn't familiar with his work, but I immediately saw his work and went, oh yeah, I absolutely love it. And it was like, I was in the mood to see it. He was in the mood to show it to me. And I was like, great. And then I reached out, and then at the same time, it was one of the great things where you get invited to do like a short story somewhere. And I'm like, oh, let's do a short story together. See if we're good together, right? Because sometimes you make the mistake of, hey, I know I just met you, but let's create Lord of the Rings, and it doesn't work out, right? It's too big and too unruly, and things fall apart. But I do know that start small, see how it goes, right? If it doesn't go well, 8 pages. Everyone gets out with less bruising, and we did. I did an 8-pager for a French revival of Metal Hurlant, like during the pandemic. And that went great. And I called him like the next day. I said, here's an idea. And he was like, I'm all in, and started drawing sketches, and it couldn't have gone better. And that's like the best kind of collaboration story is I didn't know him. A little magic person came in and put us together. That's happened a couple of times in my life. And then we get to go back online and tell Twitter, hey, you put us together. Like this is collaboration on the next level, where the reader's actually casting the book. So that worked out well.
I think that's a pretty cool story, considering like you rarely hear something positive ever coming from Twitter. So to hear you find your collaborator with that is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time you meet people through conventions or publishers, and like even Dark Horse is always like, hey, check out this artist. Like they're always keeping an eye out for, like, good editors are always looking to pair people up to see what kind of magic they can make. But this one was special. It rarely happens.
Yeah, I mean, I love the just from the title, the concept is super cool. Like, what can we expect? Because this is a 6-issue series, right? If I remember
It's
correctly.
4 issues. The 4th
issues.
issue is
Oh,
already
okay.
out, but we're doing it. Thankfully, it was successful, and we get to do more. So, Jacob, I discovered, I didn't know at the time, but Jacob had actually stopped doing what he was doing to do the ones. So, he's going to finish what he was supposed to be doing instead of the ones, and then we're right back into it. I've already started work on volume 2. I can't stop writing these people. I love them.
I mean, yeah, I think there's not enough comedy in comics nowadays. You know, I think I was talking with Kyle Starks about it, you know, like that it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to comics for comedy, but when you do it and you do it good, I mean, I think it's awesome. You know, like I love when I can read a comic and I laugh out loud. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And when it happens, that's magic, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes I know this trick from like I knew what I was doing. Like if you're on a book like Daredevil and it's super dark and you tell a joke, you can get a huge laugh. Like I grew up knowing like The Godfather and Goodfellas are fucking funny movies. I mean, they're dark and scary, but every joke in those movies land hard because it's the dichotomy, it's the mixture of the scary and the bubble pop of a good character driven joke, right? Sometimes from real life. And so I've done a lot of that kind of humor, but coming at it with a comedy premise, the premise is something I never really done before. So I was excited to try it. Again, I using Ghostbusters and Goonies and the things I grew up with as like, yeah, just do a really good version of this story. Don't do the cheeky version. Do the like for people who are younger. At the time the Ghostbusters came out, the original Ghostbusters, it was the best special effects we'd ever seen in a movie. Like it was the best horror movie. It was the best comedy. Like at the time. So that was like that's what we were reaching for.
I think Ghostbusters still holds up. So I love Ghostbusters. I love anytime somebody calls those movies out because I still like my daughter. She's 8, and I show her those, and she still loves them. You know that like they're timeless. There's a timelessness to them.
Yep.
Now, I mean, the ones is wrapped up. I'm sure there's a notebook somewhere in that house of yours that's just got idea after idea. I know.
No, I'm telling you, I wrote a list of 50 ideas. That was like 50 ideas from a 50th birthday, knowing that like they're not all gold. Like maybe 4 of them are good. Like that's how much like mining you have to do to like get to the good stuff or get to the truly original stuff.
Yeah, I know Murder Inc. Another one with your longtime collaborator Michael Bendis, who I love every time you guys collaborate on something. I know that's been announced. So, what can we expect from this new volume of Murder Inc.?
So, Murder Inc. is, it's you're not allowed to, as an author, like say which ones are your favorites. But if I did have a favorite universe that we've built from scratch, boy, this would be right up there. It is. It came from an idea that Mike came at me with, which is like, hey, what if the gangsters never gave up? Like, what if they they for a long time they were a power broker in this country on the level that people only can look back at now. But what if they were like, no, fuck you? And there was a couple of moments in American history where that could have happened. And there's one in particular that there was like, you can read about how like during the Kennedy assassination, there was a lot of people going, no, tell them to go fuck themselves. No, just tell them to go fuck themselves. What are they going to do? See what they're going to do. And America was faced with that kind of fight and Vietnam going on at the same time. And they literally like in the government were like, we can't fight both fights. Like, and I was like, oh, that's a story right there. So cut to today. What if they couldn't fight both fights? So our story is Murder Inc. is a world where the 5 families never gave up their stronghold and in fact put their foot down even harder, and the American government buckled and gave it up. And what would the world look like decades later? And so we have a United States that's cut in the middle. There's what would be the old school America, that now looks at the major cities that are controlled by the five families in horror and awe. They're both sexy and sinful and very successful financially. And what that has done to the world, what that has done to the whole world map, what it has done to politics, what it has done to religion, what it has done to the family is something we couldn't wait to dive into, and allows us to tell all kinds of fun, sexy, dangerous stories that are reminiscent of the real world, but don't have anything to do with the nonsense that we're dealing with today in real life.
And when does this new volume drop?
New volume drops very, very soon, and it's the story of our one of our favorite characters, Jagger Rose, who we have as introduced as a hit person for the Barnaby's crime family, and we've watched her ascend over the course of a couple volumes, including having to take out the president of the United States, and so this volume is a fallout of what would happen in the world like that. And we're going to go to the Vatican, or we're going to meet the other families, and we're going to have a really good sense of what's happened to the world because of some big moves that have come across. So it's a crime comic. It's also like an alt history comic, like it's almost like if you like your multiverses, if you like a world unlike your world, it's that as well. But this is, it's unto itself, and allows me and Mike and Taki to like get our crime fiction on a higher level than we've ever been able to do before, even in Powers.
I think it's such a great concept. Powers is like one of my all-time favorite series.
Thanks.
By the way, I've recently reread it, and I just couldn't put it down. Like, and I've been seeking, like, because I didn't have all the singles. I had like it in trade, but like I wanted to get the single issues because I think there's something about that. You know, the letter, especially your letters pages, are insane. So I love.
Thank you. Now they haven't aged great, because like it was a lot of me like punching up, but now it looks like I'm punching down. But in retrospect, at the time I was totally like, calling out shit and being a little feisty little independent asshole. But now it was like, hey, what's his problem? Anyway, so
I don't know. I love reading those though, because it's like it's a snapshot of history.
It's who I was. It's what I was doing. It's just high class problem.
Yeah. So
I appreciate you saying that. All the Powers is through Dark Horse now as well, and we're thrilled about that. So,
any chance to revisit it?
Yes, we just did an original graphic novel during the pandemic called The Best Ever, which kind of like put a bow on the Christian Walker storyline that we've been doing for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And that went really well. We're like our third printing of that graphic novel. So it just showed us that people are still into the universe and the idea of it. And in that graphic novel, it allowed us to kind of like introduce new characters and kind of a new idea of what Powers would be in a more modern setting. For people who don't know, Powers is about a homicide police department in a world of superheroes. Like they only solve the superhero power murder cases, and it allowed us a way to, embark into superheroes in a unique way. And we've had the most fun with it. But our feelings about law enforcement and police and what that means to the world has evolved over time, and it allowed us in that graphic novel to really like examine that and embrace it. And so we could do more, but the problem is that, and it's a high class problem, that we want to do new stuff too. So putting out Murder Inc. And also Mike and Taki and I have another new thing coming out from Dark Horse next year that's more sci-fi tinged. So like the idea to top ourselves is even scarier than trying to top ourselves in the Powers universe. So, and things, so like Donny Cates bringing Powers back in crossover, like every once in a while there's like a new wave of a new audience for it. So we keep getting to like reintroduce it to people. So we're going to show the old Powers to new people and new stuff to new people, but I'm not going to say no to more new Powers, because we're pretty set up to do more when we're ready to go.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing about your work, is that it's always in print. You don't ever have to worry about like not being able to get it. And a lot of the stuff, like I think at the big two, stories I think that should be in print are not easy to get. you
Well,
know, but
yeah,
that's
I
something
learned
unique.
from some of my heroes. They're like part of the again, I didn't invent this. I think I may have stole this from Chaikin. But like if it's truly creator owned and you're not doing the rules to benefit yourself, then and yeah, if it's in print, someone can find it. If it's not in print, no one can find it. And so yeah, I like to keep the work in print. Thankfully, a lot of it's aging pretty good, so it's not in print going. Ugh. It's and that I'm really grateful for. So yeah, I when people ask what it's like to do creator owned comics, I'm like, here's the benefits. You create the business rules, and if you want your stuff in print, then you can put it in print, and no one can tell you not to. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
thank you. Appreciate you saying that.
oh, of course. I mean, like that's one of the things that I hate when I want to recommend somebody a story and they can't find it. I'm like, damn, dude, like for the longest time, like something like Spider-Man Blue was out of print.
Yes.
Your Ultimate Spider-Man run was out of print. And it's one of the most frustrating things to be working in a comic book shop and they ask me for a Spider-Man and I want to recommend your run and it's like, oh, we don't have it.
Well, I worked in the comic book shop, so I know that
Yeah.
exact feeling you're describing. But also, I'd been in Marvel, like I've been in the room where they were making these choices, and I'd even say like, just keep it in print. Let's just like forever and ever and ever, because DC would do that more better than Marvel. But Marvel's philosophy was then they miss it, and then they buy it like crazy when it comes out, which is true. It does happen. I just, as a fan, I'd rather it just be available to me all the time. But
Same.
that's the world we live in.
Yeah. But so since like you're also republishing this stuff, your old work like through Dark Horse every time you move, like what is it like when you look back on those titles? And is there one that holds more meaning to you than others?
I don't hyper revisit them. I don't like go over every word choice, or I would just drive myself insane. Because like I'm even in a position now where I'm like adapting Jinx for Hollywood. That information will come out soon, but I'm literally adapting myself from 25 years ago, and it's weird because I may not be, I have notes for that young man, and so there's that. But I more or less am find myself proud of them and happy they're holding up. Like Torso seems to be holding up very well. And again, I cannot judge it on my own. I can only judge it on the feedback I get from people. And so I'm thrilled. I can't say that was in my head while we were making them, because you're just trying to make them, right? Mm-hmm. Like to think about, oh, in 25 years, people will totally get this. It's not in it, but I want to keep them in print. I want to and just have them and again, every couple of years there's a new audience comes into comics looking for stuff, and as fans we know what that experience is. We're like, all of a sudden you've discovered a new filmmaker or a new artist and you were like, I want all of it. Where do I get it? And you just want to have it there. So I will tell you that I've been so honored to be published for as long as I have, and it is a privilege. But when I was being published at Caliber, me and David Mack and Mike Oming, we would pine for Dark Horse. We would like, oh man, we were like feeling we were making Dark Horse comics over at another company. Still thrilled to be published, but we wanted to be a Dark Horse with Mike Mignola and and Frank Miller, and so to be over there now in such a and part of such a strong lineup that's equal, I think, to the original Dark Horse Legends lineup is quite wonderful. And that would include, Matt Kint and the Burger books, and there's so many lineups that I'm just so happy to be part of what they're publishing.
Yeah, I love Dark Horse. I've been a fan of Dark Horse, going back to when I was, with Hellboy and stuff, The Mask.
Yep.
And
again, I'm a Portland. I've been here for many years, and so I've gotten to know everyone at Dark Horse, through friends over the years. So it's nice to be where it, and even like when I first met Diana Schutz 20 years ago, I was like, yeah, why she should be my editor. These are my people. So I'm thrilled to be there right now. Yeah, it's cool. I'm kind of like always thinking about I want to celebrate everything we've done and also move forward in equal parts. And so that's what we just try to do all the time.
Yeah, I think so. Was that what was going through your mind then when you were deciding like where do you take Jinxworld next? Was that
Yeah.
memory of
Yes. No, it was when before the DC thing happened, it was almost like, well, we're gonna have to, like, even if we're not at Dark Horse, we're gonna have to talk to Dark Horse. We're friends with them. We've done a couple of merchandising things with them. They would be if not the place, the strongest candidate, right? So that was the original plan, and I was just happy that after DC they were like, yeah, let's do it. Mike was all on board. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. I love, like I said, I love Dark Horse. I talked to David Mack
Yeah, and also
recently.
it introduced me to Daniel Chabon. Daniel Chabon's the editor of the whole Jinxworld line. He's also doing Scott Snyder's line and Kevin Smith's line, and a lot of the really interesting creator-owned work that's coming out of Dark Horse is through his office. And I'm thrilled to be part of it. Just thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, yes, they lost some licensing stuff, right? When Marvel or Disney bought Fox and they took some of their properties, but I think Dark Horse has become, to me, a little bit more exciting. Like now that they're focusing more on creator-owned books and more on other types of stories, and not having like Aliens and Predator and Star Wars, even though those comics were good, don't get me wrong. But
Mhm.
I like the revitalization of what Dark
I
Horse has
like
been
the
going
mix.
through.
And Marvel was good at this too. Like, don't have just one thing keeping the doors open. Have like 6 or 7 things so the doors can definitely stay open.
Yeah.
So that philosophy I like a lot.
So I talked to David Mack recently at WonderCon because we were talking. Me and my buddy, we love Cover. We absolutely love that book. So we've asked him, I think, twice now, two different 2 years in a row. When are we getting Cover 2? What is that? And he said he's working on it. So I want to ask
Well,
you.
I've written it, and his life has been both of our lives have been quite chaotic the last couple of years. But so I am I have unlimited patience for David to get there when he gets there. So he has it, and he'll do it. We talk all the time, and everything that's in front of him right now, as one of his closest friends, I'm rooting for him to do those too. So yeah, it'll happen.
Can't wait, dude. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
I love it. It so rarely do you like, oh my God, I found this thing that does not, it does represent not only my feelings on David, but represents our friendship. Like this is how I feel about us on paper. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're also a teacher, right? And you have
Yep.
now a Substack where you're
Yeah.
doing bi-monthly classes. I want to kind of talk about, like, Substack to me came out of nowhere in
Yep.
terms of like big name creators being a part of it. Obviously anybody could have a Substack. But like you were one of the big names that came along with it. So if you could talk a little bit about how that came about and the choice to, you know, make it classes, not just about serializing
Well,
comics.
yeah. Well, when it first announced that, because so people who don't know, like Nick Spencer, our friend at Marvel, fellow Spider-Man writer, he was looking for like what spaces were out there. He was literally looking to see what else was out there, and he um engaged Substack in this idea of, wow, comics and newsletters. And they were they jumped all in. They called me. They said, here's the deal. It's a space, it's social media, you can do whatever you want, and make the space your own. And I was so delighted because I had set up Jinx World at Dark Horse. We have a book at Abrams called Phenomena, which is a series of books we're doing. So I felt, but I was like, I came up through social media. I had one of the earliest message boards in comics. It was part of my jam. I do miss it. I'm like, oh, it's a bummer you can't do those anymore. Or like have that space where you can just really share with the most passionate fans that want to share that space with you. Some people just want to read books. Leave me alone. I don't want to know you. I just want to enjoy your books from afar and talk shit about you on Reddit. And other people want to be like involved in the space where it can be, or they just like, hey, teach me what you know. Like, what do you know so far? And so they opened this thing, they opened this space to us. We can do whatever we want with it. And I immediately went to There's 3 projects I'm dying to do that I haven't been able to like wrestle to the ground. This is a perfect space to wrestle to the ground. Number 1, Fortune and Glory, the musical. I wanted to return. I had done years ago an autobiographical comic about Hollywood, and I wanted to do another one. This is the space to do it. Thrilled. Number 2, I had done a book years ago called Words for Pictures, which was my textbook on writing comics and making comics. It came fully out of my time, which I still do, working at Portland State University as a writing graphic novel teacher. And I had a sequel that I wanted to do about the art of creating things from scratch. It's messy. It's full of failure. People don't like to write about it. I wanted to write about it. Where can I do this? Perfect space to do that. And then the one thing that the most requested thing is when people hear that I teach, and David Walker and I teach together, and Taki Soma and I teach together, they're like, you should do that class like online so we can all come to it. And I couldn't figure out how to make that happen, but it was included in the Substack space. Oh, you can do I can do my class. So let's try that. Let's see if that works. Ends up the best use of that space. The class it's everything I wanted out of the social media of comics that you can't get every day. We gather together a couple of times a month. And everyone there is really passionate. Like they're the most passionate storytellers, eager for all the information. And we get together and we share everything that we have. And it's wonderful. I am so grateful for the space. That if it was just the class, I would be thrilled with the space, but having all 3 of these projects, which were my top 3, I must get these done before I leave this plane. Having to get them done and out there in a unique space, and a space I'm scared of and not sure of, and like that's all that I'm looking for lately is the things I don't know if I can do. Like, yeah, let's try. So that's where we are with this right now. So if you join on our Substack, you can join for free, just get emails and keep you up to date on what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But there are like paywalls and there are different levels, and you can, for $5 a month, all the way up to hundreds of bucks a year, you can be involved in our space, and you can have private tutoring and public class and all kinds of stuff. It's great. I love it. And for me, I came up through cons and conventions and interaction with other humans, and I can still do that every week if I wanted to, but I got 4 children, so I can't always I can't leave town every 4 days. So I only do a couple shows a year, if that. And so the Substack space allows me to have the convention experience in my pajamas.
I mean, I think it's such a cool time for comics, whether you're a reader, a fan, and a creator, like to be able, like even doing what you and I are doing right now. There was a time where this would not have been possible. Us being able to like chat, over the internet in a different space. And I do think Substack is a very interesting and cool space that has come about for creators and the interaction that the fan can have with the creators directly.
Yeah, and if you like compare my space to Brian K. Vaughan's space or any of the other spaces, you can see how different. Kelly Thompson's got a great one. Everyone, Matthew Rosenberg's got a great one. All these spaces are different and unique. I know there's a lot of people have signed up to a lot of these. You're getting a lot of emails during the day, but it's emails from comic creators, so that's cool. I loved Adrian Tremaine had one. I hope that's how you pronounce, one of my favorite creators, and
he's amazing.
Loved his Substack, loved it, because that's someone you don't hear a lot from from behind the scenes. So it was amazing to get that kind of information from him. So yeah, I what you were describing also is over the course of the years, even before the pandemic, we were watching an evolution of the comic industry in the most profound way since I think the direct market was invented, which is the YA market and graphic novel market. Again, all of these things were always there, but they had built and evolved into places that are as strong, if not stronger, than the superhero market, which was always seen as the strongest pillar of comics was superheroes. And now, which is one of 6 major, things that are going on. The graphic novel world has exploded, and I'm so, and I couldn't wait to diversify what we're doing at Jinxworld to be part of all of those spaces if there was a place for us. So we took Phenomena. Me and Andre have a book called Phenomena. We took it out to the bookstore market that was outside the comic book market, and now we're at Abrams. We're part of that world, and that's an amazing space as well. And then we have this Substack world, which allows us experimentation and all kinds of invention. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be part of all of this and any of it as we evolve. And the other thing I'd like to point out is all the evolution that's happened in the comic industry has been very inviting to new voices and new talent. So if any of the things we're talking about sounds like, yeah, I would like to do that, you go do it. Just go do it. Start a Substack. You don't need a deal from them. You could just start one. Just start a Webtoons account. Just make something. It's the best.
Yeah, I think that, comic books are my favorite medium. I love film, I love television, I love music, but if you had a gun to my head and told me I could only pick one, I'm picking comics 10 out of 10.
I again, with privilege in my heart, I say to you, a lot of these doors are open to me. I'm working in television and film and video games on and off almost all the time. And I love them, and I love the experience. I'll grab any new experience I can get my hands on, but comics are the most unique and weirdly the most intimate. You feel a connection to readers through that. I mean, I have so many people coming to me about Miles and Riri and stuff because they experienced them in the movies and the TV shows, but it's nothing compared to when someone's read something and how they talk to you about it. It's a completely different level, and you can tell that invisible arch of comics, the panels in between the borders in between the panels where the audience fills in, they're sharing authorship with you. It's still a very profound, unspoken collaboration between reader and authors. And I get to experience it all day, and it's still the most powerful interaction.
Yeah, I think it's a different kind of interaction with the consumer with the comic as opposed to film and TV, right? There's a handful of people on a comic book. There's hundreds of people when it comes to creating a show or a film. Thousands of people, really, there's so many people.
Even if you rewind it the other way and go, it's a book, one person wrote it.
Yes.
And you're reading it, and it's a word image, and that's a different relationship when you're collaborating when an artist and writer is collaborating with the reader. Like the novel author isn't. They're saying, here, read my words, paint a picture in your head, right? But this is we're kind of all in it together in an unspoken way, and that's why no matter what happens in media, whatever happens in technology, no matter what happens in social media, the words and pictures marriage is still potently strong.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about some of your past stuff. So I just want to ask, in terms of I'll just say work for hire. What were some of your favorite storylines, or if you had to pick, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 storylines that really
it's near impossible. And I often I go to the big hits that it worked out on a level that I never thought I would ever get something to work out. Those pop in, and then immediately my brain goes to, but there's those couple that no one really liked that you really like, that you just want, if you could just plug them one more time, maybe someone will love them. So it is a real mixture. I will say it's not a cheap, shitty answer. It's my real answer is that I look at all of the Marvel work as one big, phew, wow, that really worked out. Wow, that was more than I shot past my childhood dreams so quickly under Joe Quesada's tutelage that I spent most of my time going, wow, here we go. And can we do this? And can we do this? And yes, anding everything. I told some friends at Marvel, to answer your question more specifically, that looking back, I think the year of Secret Invasion and everything that went around it was the Marvel machine at its best, that everybody was doing their job extremely well, and knew exactly what they were doing, and we're all like everyone was on board, and the audience was there for it as well, because that was another one where we revealed something, and I hope the audience is into this, because this is what we're doing for the next 2 years, and they were, and that was a huge relief. So from that, the Elektra Scrollfall all the way to the end, all the way to like Dark Reign, is like my favorite time, because it felt like we learned a lot of stuff. We figured a lot of stuff out. Civil War, House of M, blah, blah, blah. Secret Invasion was everything. We had the answers to all our questions. So I look at that finally. I have obviously look at Miles Morales, deeply final, everything that goes around. I don't even look at it as our work anymore. I look at it like the video game, and we're picking at the second movie right now. It just even I can take a step back and look at what it means to certain people, and just be there with it. And that's hard for me to do, but I can listen. I've talked about, you go on Instagram and look at Miles Morales birthday cake, hashtag Miles Morales birthday cake, and you can see what a wonderful hug that character is in my life.
I know, it's an amazing character. He's an amazing character. I mean, Into the Spider-Verse is in my top 3 favorite comic book movies. I mean, what they did with the movie was amazing. Phenomenal.
Can't wait for you to see the new one.
I can't wait for it either. I love that you mentioned that time at Marvel. I just have to briefly say, I think that's probably those years might be my favorite years, because I feel like there was a cohesiveness to the line, and I think it showed that you guys all talked to each other. You, Brubaker, Fraction, like the brain trust over there. Like I've heard of you guys like playing like Call of Duty and stuff together. So I think that there's such a it's missing. It's missing. I think you don't see it anymore. And
well, it's not missing in my life, because
not with you. Yeah, I'm talking about
Matt Kelly live down the street from me, so I see them all the time. So it's that, but I do know what you mean. And what's nice for me though is that we've taken those collaborations and moved onward with them. So even though it's not for Marvel, we're still doing it, and you'll see some of the results coming soon. But I get what you mean, and I don't know. I'm just grateful for it. I am. Because it doesn't matter what you do for a living. You kind of figure out later, like, all that matters is how it made you feel and the friends you made along the way. And not to be too cheeky, but Joe really believed in me, and it really paid off, and I wasn't sure I could do it. And learning real collaboration from all walks of life, from people who don't even speak English to other people who end up being my best friends. I've worked with people who I'll never meet, who don't speak English as their first language, and there's other people who I will never be apart from, and it all came from this. It's amazing.
Yeah. Is there any? I mean, I know you've written basically everything, but is there any other work for hire stories that you have in you that you still want to tell, or if you never did it again, would you be completely satisfied?
Oh, that's a good question. I know my answer is fluid right now. At the moment, I am not thinking about the superheroes at the moment, but not with fuck those guys. I know, like, some creators like, that's it. Oh, they don't make them like I used to make them. Oh, I hate it. And I always I was faced with a lot of that when I was coming up. Like a lot of older creators, just like, oh, me and Mark were just annoying to them. And I kind of made a promise to myself that not to grow up and be that way. But you can't fake it. You gotta real. So what I tend to do is, I love them, and I climb that mountain, and I often sit there going, do I need to climb the mountain again? I don't know. But this mountain seems unclimbed, the one I'm doing right now. So, and I also think it's because the work is still out there. Like, it took me a long time to realize, and again, it sounds so braggy, but Marvel announced that the #1 book on Marvel Unlimited last year was Ultimate Spider-Man, right? They made a social media post about it and everything. I was like, oh, great. And it did oh yeah, it's out there. Your Spider-Man is living his life out there. You can, so even if I felt the pull, no, let it just be out there and you do new stuff. And that's and even though I love Spider-Man, I love Miles, I love all the characters. And you were like, oh, should I go back and do it again and be like a pale reflection of my former self and people constantly remind me? No, or I can do new stuff. So also, yeah, I'm being cheeky about it, but there in the history of comics, there are times where people return to characters and they should not have. And it just was a diminishing return situation. So and sometimes it's real, and sometimes people remember things fondly wrongly. They like remember things too fondly. And I say, let them. I do it all the time. I say, let us remember things more fondly than they were, and let that be that. So, yeah, I at the moment, yeah, I want to do the new. And again, I was just playing around with Lord and Miller on Spider-Verse, so it's not like I'm like not do like I still get the fun, I still get the frosting of the cake. I don't know what the reference I'm making is, but like I it's still there when I want to mess around with it. But I think it takes the edge off me knowing I no do the new stuff. The new stuff is scarier. That's where I always go to. What's the scariest path creatively? The new stuff, the stuff you don't know you can do.
Well,
Does that
before
long answer make any sense?
yeah,
I
it
think
makes sense.
about it a lot. I do get offers to come do stuff at the companies, and I'm like, because young Brian would have killed to do this book, and now you're saying no, thank you at a moment, and it so flies in the face of the person I was that it startles me, but it's the right answer at the moment. And again, I could tomorrow go, oh my God, I know exactly what to do with Plastic Man, you know, or something, and call someone. But at the moment, it's about the new.
Well, yeah, like I said, like I love your work and I'm excited. Like if you don't go back, I'll continue to pick up your creator own stuff. But like obviously there's so many characters, so like I just like I just thought I'd ask, like is it maybe there's characters you didn't write? Like you
No,
said,
yeah,
Plastic Man, for God's sakes, like I'd buy a Bendis Plastic Man book. So
yeah, and again, if I really think about it for more than 10 minutes, I can fall into it easy. I love both universes. I love both mythologies with my whole heart, with everything that I have, and I'm so proud to be part of them. But again, I look at it and I go, yeah, it's out there. And again, last night the Secret Invasion trailer came out. Tomorrow the new Spider-Verse trailer comes out. Riri's coming down the street. Like it's out there. I can just be with it,
yeah, totally get it.
It's very privilegey thing. Everything I'm saying sounds privilegey and annoying, and I apologize.
Don't apologize. I get it, man. But before I let you go, is there anything else that you're working on that you want to either talk that you can talk about, or even something that you can give a hint on?
Well, I appreciate that. I will say that the headlines are, if you check out our new stuff at Jinxworld at Dark Horse, there's a whole Jinxworld page. You can check out what we're doing. I think if you like are like, and there's like something for anything you liked at my Marvel or DC runs. There's a creator owned, I think you might dig. Me and Alex Maleev have a book called Scarlet. You love our Daredevil, I guarantee you'll love our Scarlet. Me and Mark Bagley have a book called Brilliant, about young people trying to create superpowers from scratch. There's Powers, which is the book that kind of got me to Marvel, and Torso as well. So there's that, and then there's our new stuff like The Ones and Murder Inc. and the new book I'm doing with Alex Maleev that'll be announced shortly. And then also come hang out on Substack. Just come subscribe. That's our safe space where we can just enjoy each other, and I can keep you updated on stuff. And every once in a while, I drop some free cool stuff on everybody. Also, if you join our Substack, we have a Discord, and that Discord has become just the loveliest space of people sharing their work and sharing their nerd love of everything. And almost all like sneak previews go there first, so you can be part of that group as well.
All right,
So
cool.
that's that. So I have, but going forward, Phenomena at Abrams is out right now. I just this morning handed in the full manuscript to volume 2, so that'll be out later this year with Andre Lima, and we have another one of those coming out next year as well. So it's Dark Horse, Abrams, Substack. Come join.
Awesome, man. And I will drop all the links for all your social media stuff, the Substack link down below, so everybody listening and watching can hit that and follow you and stuff like that. Brian, thank you so much for taking time to chat
and
with
my
me
pleasure.
today.
And the other thing I will say that if you haven't tried to create your own book before, and those are if you're a superhero person, may I give you this challenge? Go into a comic store, ask the person behind the counter, what's the best create your own book right now? Or does the person writing my favorite Marvel or DC comic have a create your own book, like a James Tynion or Chip Zdarsky or something? And let them guide you towards their create your own work and see if it doesn't completely blow your mind as to what comics can be and what your favorite creators can do.
All right, guys, you heard him. Go follow those orders.
All right.
And thank
Lecture
you so
over.
much. Yeah, thank you so much. And I would love to do this with you again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, you got it.